Some, who believe that Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK, say that no gross injury existed on the back of the head. However, an official government committee that concluded Oswald shot President Kennedy also said that the autopsy photos show a gross distortion of the back of the president's head. Most persons who believe the president was shot from the front say that the back of the president's head possessed a large wound, that is an exit wound, rather than have a government committee, or a conspiracy theorist, or the author of this video, insist what you must believe the Assassination film show. Decide for yourself the meaning and importance of what your own eyes see. From frame 312 to 313, the head appears to quickly snap forward, in the same direction as the bullet would be moving with a from-behind shot. Then, the shattered head moves in a backward direction. Studies of the president's head wound by the government, and even by most conspiracy theorists, focus on comparing frame 312 with frame 317, with the conclusion that no severe wound existed on the back of the head. Look again, but now focus on the other frames that are between 312 and 317, and this time digitally at much higher magnification. Note that the midpoint of the top of the head is severely stretched up. This may have caused a strong tension on the scalp of the back of the head. On the next frame, the beginning of a change to the contour of the hair on the back of the head begins to be discernible. By 2 frames after the shot to the head, what appears to be a large right-left tear is seen midway down the right side of the back of the head. Observe the torn edge of the scalp along the upper and lower rims of the tear. The breadth of the tear quickly becomes smaller and less distinct. Finally, by frame 317, the rip in the scalp, that is hidden in shadow on the back of the head, is less visible. Here are the same frames, with greater brightness, contrast and color density. A side-by-side comparison of the appearance of the scalp on the back of the head just before the frame 313 headshot versus 2 frames later. Next, a side-by-side comparison 2 frames and 4 frames after the headshot. What appears to be a flap of scalp on the back of the head in frame 315 is in a different position than the part of the top of the head that burst upwards. One interpretation of these images is the government's position that the scalp has no large rip in it on the right side of the back of the head. A different interpretation of these images is that they indicate a major wound was caused in the rear scalp by shooting to the president's head. Does other photographic evidence exist from Dealey Plaza that will permit evaluation of the wound on the back of the head? Remember the Nix movie? It was taken on the opposite side of the street as the Zapruder film, and shows JFK's head from the left side. Above is the Nix film at 1 frame before a bullet hit the president's head. In the next frame the bullet has hit the president's head. the surface of his head lifts up near the middle of the top of the head, which may have induced a strong tension on the scalp at the back of the head. By this next frame, the head has moved both down and forward. In addition, at frame 23, the forward avulsion of the brain and blood out of the top of the president's head is most visible. The frames on the next movie closely match those on the film made by Zapruder, except that the frames in the next movie are fractionally ahead. As the Zapruder film changes from frame 312 to 313, JFK's head changes from not yet impacted to already hit. The middle of the top surface is thrust up, and the head is moved as far forward as is recorded on the film. However, when the next film moves from the frame 21 to 22, the middle of the top of the head has been thrust up, but the head has not yet been moved fully forward, and the head tissue has not been fully avulsed out until the next frame, number 23. Compare again, side by side. The next film sequence takes 2 frames to complete, whereas in the film made by Zapruder, the head shot completely occurs in 1 frame. Recall for a moment the images from the Zapruder film. The split in the scalp on the right rear of the head makes visible the edge of the rim of the loose flap. The split in the scalp at the back of the head closes up rapidly in the next 2 frames. Now, what does the next film show with respect to the scalp on the right rear of the head? Remember, the next film was taken on the opposite side of the street as the film made by Zapruder, and shows JFK's head from the left side. This frame is just after the burst out the top front of the head. Watch the profile of the scalp midway down the back of the head. Also watch, in the frame after this one, the profile of the scalp at the upper edge of the back of the head. See how 2 frames after the burst, the profile midway down the back of the head briefly does have a shape consistent with a sideways rip in the scalp. Again, at much higher magnification, the same profile showing the flap of scalp flinging up on the rear of the head. Now, compare the next film and Zapruder film side by side. Watch the profile of the scalp rip on the back of the head flinging up at the same time in both films. The official government position is that the scalp on the back of the head in Zapruder frame 315 is identical to the scalp at 312 before the head shot. That is, the rear scalp has no major injury. However, there is an alternative interpretation, that these film images show that the back of the head did in fact possess a large rip in the scalp, which created a movable flap.